Hello and welcome to the Event Bestie, the show that unlocks the magic of event planning by taking you behind and before the scenes. I'm Tanya Hills. In today's episode, our very first guest episode, we'll be chatting with seasoned event planner and CEO Dionne Bishop of Events by Dionne. We're talking all things virtual events, why you shouldn't cancel them just yet, and why AI is not going to be eliminating us anytime soon. Let's get into it. Hi, Dionne.
Hello. Good
How are
morning. I am well. Thank you so much. Excited to be here. Excited to chat about all the things.
I know we could talk for 14 hours and still probably not cover every single aspect of event planning, but you are one of the smartest planners that I know and was able to pivot really well into the virtual event production world. And so much so that I was just like, when we had to work on a joint project together, I was just like, nope, I don't know this life. And, I know someone who does. And I met
Absolutely.
her. And that's how that happens. And I'm just like, see, collaboration can and should happen. So thank you
Amen.
so much for taking the time to be on the podcast with me. Tell me about you. How did you get here? That's,
Yes.
that's
Love that.
your bio, but without reading your bio part.
Right? I love the open space. Tell me about you. No nerves, no pressure. Well, Dionne Bishop. I run Events by Dionne. We are a boutique agency. We're based in the north, part of the city of Toronto. So we are Toronto based. And we do full service planning. I have been in every type of event you could possibly think of, from expos to festivals to conferences. And it really, for me, was a shift in COVID when everything shut down, and I was facing myself as a freelance event manager going, what shall I do now? And that's really when I woke up and said, I'm going to create a whole new business. Right? Because that's the smart thing to do in a shutdown. Uh, let me create an agency format. And I did so really because I had a lot of contacts and people that trusted me to do events, but I started thinking there's a lot of people in the community that don't have these same access points, that don't have the same opportunities. And I'm getting tired of doing all the things solo. So let's kill two birds with the stone. I need a new saying. Um,
Poor bird.
let's say, you right, the poor birds. But let's say, yeah, let's go book some business and let's bring on some planners and help grow planners. And to be fair, especially within the Black community, a very kind of social concept on that area. So very happy to be where we are now. Yeah, we've just, as I said, we've done everything from in person to virtual. Virtual was our life for the first 2.5 years because obviously it was a shutdown. So yeah, now we do both. So I'm very happy to be in person, but also happy to continue talking virtual because it is still a part of the ecosystem.
Okay, so that's definitely question one checked off. It's still part of the ecosystem. So I have a question that wasn't included in the list, but this was just where were you when the world shut down? I know where, like, the last event I was actually a recipient of, I wasn't a planner for, which was so nice. And then for me, it was the Olympics and the NBA closing. And I was just like, what, what do you mean the NBA and the Olympics? Like, I think for me,
Yeah.
like, because we had heard about other ones and like people, like sponsors were pulling out of South by Southwest and all these other things. But I think that for me, that was what do you mean? What do you
What do you mean? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah, at that time I was a freelancer. So I used to jokingly call myself a clipboard for hire. And I'd say, whatever gigs are coming up. And so for me, that particular year, I was focused on TIFF, the Toronto International Film Festival. And that happens every September. So I was focused on that and very excited to go back that year. And so when things started to shut down, and I was like, oh, that's fine. But there was a little bit of a hope that September we'd still be fine. March to September is still long enough that maybe there could be something. But I think by the time we got to around June, July, and you know, the Caribbean Carnival and like what's the one Salsa, what's the one on St. Clair? Salsa on St. Clair and Taste of the Danforth and it was just like one by one, but I was like, oh dear. And then my brain, I woke up one day, I can still vividly see it, and I said, it takes 6 months prior to an event minimum to get going. So if people haven't been going into the office, they haven't been working on the event. So even if we are open in September, no one's been working. So there's no event to open. And that's when I went, oh, wait a minute. This is real. Yeah, so it was a dark time, but it was a good I had a great summer.
Probably for the first time ever had someone who does events, and of course, summer is event season. So I'm sure if that was
Yeah.
the most rested and
Oh
lucid.
yeah. I
That
was living my best life outside and walking around and smelling flowers and trying to avoid the fact that I had no income, but it's okay.
Yeah, I think that was because I also was had my own agency at the time, and I'll never forget December 2019, because I knew the slate of events that my client had. I was going to be doing a lot of traveling, so I bought travel insurance for the entire year instead of buying them one-offs. So I'm still
Smart.
salty that I never got a refund for that, because that was an investment in
Insurance.
travel, and yeah, that was sad times. But um, yeah, there was a lot of shifts that ended up happening. So how was
Crazy.
your transition from in real life events to the virtual world of event production? Did you already have
Oh
some
my
sort of
gosh.
background in it, or were you like, all right, this is a new world, but I gotta learn it. Let's go.
So it's a little bit of both. Because I guess, what brings me joy, especially in the event space, there's so many different spokes of the wheel, right? And for me, I've always really loved the production side of things in the sense of, you know, I treat my events really like mini musical theater, like I look at it, it's like there's got to be entertainment, there's a rhythm behind it all. And I think it comes from sort of a dancer musical background. Everything for me is like, it's a show, it's a thing. So I've always loved the lights, the tech, the AV. Now, I'm not an AV producer, cannot do their job. But I'm always like, what are you guys doing? Talk to me. This is what I want to do. Can we swing something from the rafters, et cetera, et cetera. So all that being said is that I was comfortable in the tech AV side, um, and thought to myself, okay, virtual production, okay. I've seen guys do this. I've seen them push the buttons. I've seen them, I've seen them, cut the camera and, give us a different angle and zoom in and zoom out. I was like, yeah, I got this. And so I literally one day said, and I always feel blessed about this, my first client, uh, I put up on Facebook because Facebook was still a thing at the time. And I was like, okay, everybody, I think I'm back in the game now. Summer was fun. Uh, I'm looking for new clients. Let's see who wants to do something. And I probably 48 hours later, someone said, this company is looking to do their gala online. And it was the top 100 Black women of Canada, the event. And I was like, oh, online. Absolutely. Easy peasy. Let's do it. And I reached out, I pitched my confident self to the organization. And let me tell you, what a baptism by fire. It was literally like 100 women. They had the choice of pre-recording their acceptance or being live. And I thought, absolutely, I've got this. Just, send me the recording. I've got my spreadsheets. I'm fine. And then it started turning into very quickly some folks on the day of the event saying, oh, sorry, here's my recording. Oh, I recorded mine on my cell phone. Oh, mine's on Zoom and it's landscape, but it should be portrait. And it was just a chaotic mess. And so I was by myself. It was just me. So anyone who does virtual events would probably be choking right now thinking, I'm sorry, you wanted to have 100 people come on and off a virtual production with your one self, and you've never done this before. And I was like, welcome to Events by Dionne. So it did work though. There's one thing about me, I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna get it done. So it did happen. It was good. But it was a big lesson, huge lesson that virtual events cannot be done by yourself. You need a team. It's not any easier per se than an in person. I mean, it is easier in some regards, but it's still a skill. And I quickly realized, yeah, you need a team, you need to get into this, and you need to go watch some webinars. You need to go pay attention because this is not simple. Yeah, it's crazy.
Hilarious. But it's also so very on brand for you to be I admire your confidence in just being like, you know what? No, I can do this. I got this. And I mean, I'm sure on the back end, as event planners, the fires, all the fires. But as long as the clients got what they wanted and what they hoped and expected, and all the women got, their airtime or whatever, that's all that really ended up mattering. And but yeah, this is all exactly why I was just like, no, thank you.
Yes. Girl. Yeah, until this day. And I mean, the client came back. I think that's also a testament. I continue to work with them off and on ever since, and I adore them, and I attribute them as trusting me to do their first foray into the virtual world, and they've brought me back to do other events, other forums, and things like that. So clearly, it wasn't that terrible, but I did have to do a few apologies in the Facebook group because some folks didn't know it was me back there. And there was a few like, Dionne, what's happening? How come I couldn't get my face on screen? And it's like, sis, I'm sorry, because you gave me your video 5 minutes before I was supposed to play it in the show. Like the show is live right now, and you're emailing me, here's my video. So you know what's not getting loaded and resed and repurposed and repackaged and all the things to then play 30 seconds later? It's your video. That's what's not happening.
What does virtual event production entail? Because I think that was the thing too. There probably were some companies that already existed, kind of like how Skype existed before Zoom, but then some new players entered the field to make the virtual world of events a better place. So walk me, and this really is for me because I know absolutely nothing and I want your parts. Through like what it is and what do you need, and it's not just Zooms and the things that general layman people know.
Correct. So that's a great question. Virtual production for me is like a live experience. It's not is a TV show. And I say that to say it's not just a screen talking at people and they sit there and watch it and then they turn off and go away. It 100% has to entail an opportunity for people to engage, and not just engage on like, oh, I'm watching this and yay, or answer a poll. Everybody in their polls, put up a Zoom question and get everyone to click the button. Like nobody cares. I promise you. Send a survey out after if you've got questions that you need, but trying to cram it all into the experience is trash. So don't do that. But it's engagement. It's a really good platform and one that you're comfortable using. It doesn't have to be the one with all the bells and whistles, especially if what you're trying to produce doesn't require all the bells and whistles. I think that's where a lot of people was going sideways, is like, oh, they get sold this fancy platform and then they would go to an event producer to be like, here, I've already bought this platform, make this work. And it's like, well, that's backwards, first of all. You need to come to me first. I'll tell you what you need based on what your vision is, and then we'll go find the platform to suit that, right? But I digress because that's a whole other soapbox. But So you've got to have something that can engage people. You've got to do two-way engagement. So another thing that's really fun I did with one of the clients, and we did this together. This was a you and me thing. Well, we did the Amped event, putting the host and the DJ in a live studio experience, and then patching that into the virtual event is a key other element to creating that engaging experience, right? It was able to be like, oh, look, they're physically somewhere, even though I'm not there as a viewer. They are physically somewhere. The host is engaging with the DJ. There's some energy to this thing. And then I go and listen to a talking head, if you will, right? Um, so yeah, I think it has to have a start and a stop, a clear, um, you know, delineation as to how this is working. Also, I used to treat it just like an in-person event where you would have a host. So many people were doing virtual events and not thinking they needed a host. They would just go right live to the keynote and then right live to the next session, and I'm like, absolutely not. People are going to get there early. They're going to get there 20, 15 minutes early. What are they doing? Is there music playing? Is there a little game that they can engage with? Is the host, chatting in the chat box saying, welcome to the show. We're going to get started in about 10. Like, what's going on? And a lot of people just failed at that. So I, yeah, as a viewer, I was like going to all the virtual events I could possibly go to see what people were doing. And I'm like, this is boring. So we have to make sure that it's not a 2D experience, but it's still a 3D engaging experience.
I really love that answer because it really informs that just because the platform, you really treated the virtual platform the same way as choosing an event venue. It's kind of like, yes, you will work with a client who's already chosen their venue, right? And then you will make the event work for the type of
Correct.
want in the venue that they chose, whether it was a good venue for that type of event or not.
Correct. Yeah.
This is the same thing, and it never really occurred to me, but it does make sense. If you don't have, when like Afrotech, when it pivoted into virtual, they had so many stages, and because it has tech in the name, they needed to lean into a platform that had a lot of the bells and the whistles and the tech tools and the little avatars with your name hovering and being able to dance,
I remember that.
having a whole dance party with exactly live entertainment, etc. And they had to do that. Whereas, the Ontario government, they just need a Zoom and people being able to chat in a chat box. And
correct.
Those platforms would not have worked if you flipped them for those particular clients. So I think that that's really, really key is you still need an event. You need to start with an event planner. We know that not everyone thinks that they need us and that we should be their first stop, and that's fine. Then listen to them.
Yeah.
At the very
least, the disrespect is thick. The disrespect is very thick. Yeah.
Listen, I love the confidence that people have in thinking that this is something that they can do, which is why people like yourself and I exist, but also why this podcast exists, because I can walk into an event and know you did not start with a budget and or a clear vision and or hired a seasoned event planner.
Correct.
We know this when we walk into an event. I will stake my reputation on it because I'm always right.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That's why sometimes I slow down my attendance to things because I'm just like, what I don't have in me is the strength to suffer through a poorly planned experience because I just can't. So yeah, there's a lot of that there. Another soapbox we could all go down, but yes.
So what do you see as some of the pros and pitfalls of virtual events?
Love this question. So first of all, the pros. I will stand 10 toes down on the fact that you can now have a global experience. You can have a keynote who's from like, Ireland, uh, and have them be a part of your event in the downtown core of your city, right? Um, I love the ability to, and it's not about cost savings so much. So yes, there is a cost savings to not having to fly in a speaker, put them up in a hotel, etc. But their rates, and all my speaker friends will love me in about 30 seconds, their rates remain the same,
What?
whether they're in person or they're on virtual, because it's
Yep.
still their intellectual property. It's still their face and name that you're using to elevate your event. So the cost savings is not as deep as people think it is in terms of having a speaker patch in virtually.
And your
Just putting that
snaps.
out
I'm a
there.
public
Speaker
speaker.
snaps. What I do save on is having to put you in a hotel and fly you out, but that's where the buck stops on that. So the pros though really is having a wider pool of who you can engage with.
Mhm.
The pitfalls, however, is that people still don't treat virtual with the same methodology as an in-person. And by that I mean they want to have a shorter runway to promote and market the event. They're like, oh, we're going to throw a virtual event on. It's in 3 weeks, everybody. Show up on the 19th. Well, you would never do that with an in-person event. You would have minimum 6 weeks runway to market, engage, get people, excited. Virtual events did not have to mean free. So a lot of people were giving these amazing events, especially early, lockdown times, these amazing events, and thinking the only way they were going to get people to attend is if they made it for free.
Mhm.
And that speaks to people should be going to the event for the value and experience of the event, not because of the price point per se, right? So just because it's free doesn't mean I'm going to show up. And that was something that was plaguing a lot of business events as well, right? They're like, oh, we have great registration, but then 20% are actually showing up at the day of the event. And it's like, well, it's free. When it's free, nobody cares. You just, if I make it, I make it. If I don't, I don't.
Mhm.
So it's the pitfalls is it can feel a little too laissez-faire, if you will. Where it's still just as important to do all of the marketing and the preparation for a virtual event as you do in person. So people got a little too lax, you know, and then expecting to still have a return on their investment, still expecting to be, well, what did we learn, or what did we, what was the goal? And half the time they don't even know what the goal is, right? So you're just out here producing, and then they start looking at our rates and the cost to produce it and start questioning that, because they're like, why am I spending, $10,000, $15,000 and no one showed up? Well, we can talk about that if you'd like, but it has nothing to do with with our service.
Whole other podcast episode. We will talk about that for sure because listen, I'm very transparent because it's my space and I'm allowed to be, and that's just my nature. Is I struggle with that as BMC, like the getting people to buy tickets and getting people to show up, both of which are two very different things, by the way. Um, and what we are and are not responsible for, I will support and I will give you the tools and I will tell you best industry practices, but ultimately, has your event planner, selling tickets to your event and getting people to log on is not my responsibility, and you're not going to start nickel and diming my invoice because I did my actual job. Your one job was to secure bags, and my job is to spend your bags responsibly.
Correct. Right. In order for you to make more, right? Yeah, that's usually the sentence I would say to help it very be clear, because it's something in my proposals, in my contracts, all the things. I'm like, here's what exclusive of these services. Here's what we don't do.
Right.
And I think it's really important in our space because there's a lot of ambiguity around that. And so now I clearly go, what I don't do is event marketing. This means I'm not responsible for your ticket sales and your this and how many people show up. You get them to the door and then I take care of them. And that's usually how I present it. I'm like, I've got the inside of the venue locked and loaded, but you got to get them here. If you don't get them here, we can have a party for two, but you're still going to pay me at the end because I did my job. Yeah.
Um, Absolutely. So we started talking about it a little bit before, but what are some of the, let's say, top three myths of virtual events? And I think, the one-off is definitely like, oh, well, it's simple and easy. Like everyone's got internet. Everyone knows how to use Zoom. No, to this day, people are still like, can you see my screen? And all these things. And that's 4 years later.
Yeah,
Right?
100%.
But any other myths or purveying FAQs that you're constantly getting that you're just like once and for all, and then that way you can just send people to this podcast episode, and it's all
right. I'm like, go listen to the event bestie because what I'm not doing is getting into this with you again. No, I love you people. I'm kidding. Everyone, you can call me. I'm nice.
We love questions. Questions are important, but we just love not having to repeat ourselves. Which is why this podcast will be evergreen content.
Evergreen content. Here for it. Okay. Myths about virtual. So yes, one of them, 100%, it's not a one woman or one man job. So when you see someone come to you with, yes, we still need a team of 3, it is correct. There's going to be one person managing your speakers, making sure that they get on okay. When they disappear, who's picking up the phone and calling them and hunting them down? That person cannot be the person who's also producing the actual show and paying attention to cues and transitions and all of that. And then we have a third person that is in the chat box, which is a very important piece. People want to ignore, but it is very important, especially in Zoom. If you're in Zoom, any of the platforms really, but my mind is just pulling up examples in Zoom right now where there are people that Zoom bomb, and people don't realize that. But there's people that want to do you harm, and they will show up in your event and then just drop all kinds of craziness in the chat box, whether it be racist, sexist crap, porn I've seen. Like it's just wild. So you need someone that's
I was doing a panel. We were talking about anti-Blackness, racism, probably with a specific school, and people were really upset that that was even a conversation. And so at first I thought someone had just accidentally turned on their mic or whatever, but it was actually purposeful, where they were playing like rock music, trying to drown us out, and like not like rock music like Bon Jovi, but like scary, like demonic type of sounding. And it's like, wait, what's really happening? And then once we understood what was happening, it's just like, wow, like this is really a thing that people can easily now do, right? People wouldn't have shown up to Black events before to do that. I mean, well, back in the day, in the era of KKK, maybe, but like now, most people just not.
Yeah,
but this is made it easier, and you're anonymous. Oh, absolutely. People would.
Yes.
Big kids have a lot of time on their hands. I've learned.
Yes. Yes.
To be fully honest, I'm like, why?
I know. Where do you find the time for this?
Like, don't you work? Like, I just feel like. But anyways, we digressed a little bit. But yes.
What I try to tell clients and people is, just because you don't think you've never seen it, or you're like, you want to call BS on me, or like, that's crazy, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And at the end of the day, what you're actually doing is causing harm, allowing harm to be caused to your attendees, right? So in the case of, if it is an anti-Blackness conversation, it's a sensitive topic. People are already, potentially traumatized or potentially working through things and trying to have a conversation. And then here comes this that just, excels all of the fears and anxieties around this, right? So I'm like, it's your responsibility to make sure that we have enough ability to react quickly. So my person who's on the chat is also now paying attention, can block the person immediately, can shut it down. Sometimes, depending on the type of event and how big it is, we'll have it where the comments are moderated first. So they don't just go live automatically, but they'll go and then we have to say approved, and then the comment will go up. So that takes a lot of work, and that's an important piece. So it's kind of like how I've described it to some people in the past. I'm always trying to find analogies using other industries for make people understand the power of our industry, which is wild. But I'll say to them, I'm like, it's like a fireman, right? Everybody kind of laughs and says a fireman sleeps all day and does nothing all day and he gets paid really well. And I'm like, you want the fireman to be sleeping all day because that means that no one's house is burning down, right? No one's in danger, right? But when he or she has to be called, when they're called, yeah, you want them ready and available because it's seconds that makes a difference. And it's the same thing here in virtual. It's seconds that makes a difference, right? If someone is Zoom bombing or someone is causing harm by saying something, it's seconds that I've got to find them, pull them down and get them out, right? And so you need someone on the ready. So yes, myth is not a one person. You will get an invoice for a team, and just accept it. It is what it is. Another myth I would say, we did touch on it a little bit, is that it's cheaper. So again, yes, it is cheaper in the sense that maybe you're not feeding people and you're not paying for security and all of those lovely things, but your tech will be potentially higher than what you might have had. So if you were in an event, let's say, and you're doing your basic AV package, one screen, one projector, a microphone, and a speaker, yay, a couple $100, everybody's happy. The money that you were spending on food in the in-person, the thousands, now is going to be redirected to the tech for virtual, because now it's not just a speaker and a screen and one microphone. Now it's a platform, right? If you want to have integrations, like you were talking about AfroTech with the little avatars and the dancing people, a lot of that is sometimes there's an integration that has to go into the platform, and it's just stacks upon stacks of money every time you add something to your tech stack, right? So it's not cheaper, but it's just redirected, in my humble opinion.
That's a great way of putting it, for sure, that it's not, if you were going to invest, $30K into your event, you definitely are still investing $30K. But you're not, 10 of that budget is not going towards food. It's just
correct
going someplace else.
It's going someplace else. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think that's it. And it's not dead. I don't know if that's the segue, but
it is the segue. The next question is, what is the future of virtual events? Look at you. Look at you.
I mean,
it's just being seen.
The future virtual events, listen, there's a lot of chatter. And I think there's some people that make a business for themselves out of just debunking or chatting about things really loudly. And it's not even, I'm like, have you even done this before? You've got a whole opinion piece, on every blog that will let you speak. And I'm like, when's the last time you even did a virtual event? Like, what are you even talking about? So for me, virtual events are not going to go anywhere, but they are not going to be used in the same frequency by which they were before. It's not going to replace in person. Absolutely not. That was never going to go anywhere. But right. The technology that we've learned during this time is still very important. The technology that we've learned during the COVID, the lockdown, the whatever, it's still here. We still need to connect global audiences. So it's more of a bit, and then hybrid, everybody went bananas on the term hybrid. What does it mean? What does hybrid actually mean? Listen, hybrid is two separate events running at the same time, 100%. But virtual, you can still have a sales AGM. You can still have a address from the CEO. If the CEO wants to talk to the company all at once, right. That's 100% a virtual event. You've got remote teams, that's a whole other hot button topic about remote. That's not going anywhere. I mean, I think it's going to slow down a little bit where people in general have to be more flexible with, okay, maybe I have to come in 1 to 2 days a week, I think. But the full on remote, if you are in a different country, 100%, you need virtual. How else do you attend? How else do you engage with your team, right? So I think it's not going to go anywhere. It's just a matter of using it strategically, using it properly for what it is. It's not, you're not going to have a gala on a virtual event, right? Like,
wouldn't do that unless you really were like legally required to have a gala, and that's the only way that you could do it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's not going to happen. But I think patching people into live events is still a thing. I think that shouldn't go anywhere, in my opinion. And then, I feel like people just have to understand and use it for the tool and the resource that it is, and stop trying to replace in person, because that will never happen. And that's what I think brings people's like negativity up, right? Where there's some voices that are so loud and proud against virtual. But what they're really saying is, virtual will never replace in person. But can it have a space in the ecosystem of event planning and management and production? Absolutely, 100%. Just be smart about it. Get yourself an event planner who thinks strategy, who thinks, and that's a whole other topic as well, that we should be at the C-suite level, at the C-suite tables, when you guys are talking to your CMO and your CFO, and do we have budget and can we do this? 100% a seasoned event planner should be at that table saying, here's how we're going to elevate and augment this strategy in person. So when you go about it that way, you're going to get someone that says, listen, we're going to do 2 virtuals for this reason, that we're going to bring everybody together for the in-person big gala, the big to-do, the expo, whatever. But when you just try to go at it on your own, forget about it. It's gonna mess up. So we still are here. Everybody keep your computers on, because it's still gonna happen.
This was fantastic. Thank you so very much for your time. Drop where to follow and where to find Dionne and all the things, because you're listening to this because you're busy. You're probably a mom or you're on the go. And I appreciate it. I think that for me, again, like, this is a learning opportunity between the two of us. We've been in this event space for how long? A minute, and we're still learning things every day. And I think
only a year. We're youngins. Only a year. We're babies.
No, man. Episode 1 told people how long I've been in this space. Okay, I can't start lying to the people.
You can't start lying now. Okay, got it.
But that's a sign of a good event people, that they're always willing to learn and try new things. And if without that, even Dionne and Events by Dionne wouldn't be a successful agency that produces great virtual and hybrid events. So yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And that's officially a wrap. Dionne, thank you so much for joining us. I know I learned a ton. It was so dope to sit down with you and learn about events from a completely different aspect. For our listeners who may be trying to get into this space, thank you so much for listening. Slide over to that subscribe button so I know it's real. Until the next time, we'll keep the red carpet ready for you.